The Damian Lillard to Miami situation has reached the standoff stage. Could a truly contentious drama be on the horizon? Welcome to the Blazer Focus podcast. I am Aaron Fentress of The Oregonian, and I'm joined by Craig Birnbach. Craig, we have the DEF CON thing. How does that work? DEF CON 1 is the worst, right? So I'm saying we're at DEF CON. I'm gonna say DEF CON 3. We're DEF CON 3. No, you disagree on this Lillard thing? I think. It's higher than that, you think? Oh, it's higher? No. It's only been a week. It ain't been a week yet. I'm in charge of DEF CONs. We're at DEF CON 3 right now. I'm going back to my War Games fascination with that movie. Anyway, we're at DEF CON 3 right now with this Damian Lillard, Miami Blazers situation. There's a standoff going on. We all know Damian wants to go to Miami. Miami wants Damian, but Miami's often a weak trade offer. Not even as good as what the Spurs got last year for DeJounte Murray, a one-time All-Star. The Blazers are like, step off, son. Kick rocks. We don't want that. You have to do better. Summer League's about to start. I think things are going to reach an amicable solution. But as of right now, we could be headed to something kind of contentious because Damian Lillard has made it clear he wants Miami and Miami only. Craig, what do you think? Before we get to our rundown, give me your first initial impressions.
So, first, everything's true in July, and everything's fine in July. Like, Dame only wants to go to Miami in July, and the Blazers only don't want to trade him to Miami unless they get, a deal that's close to the, Kevin Durant style deal. I think that we have to remember that many things can be true at the same time. So when people are trying to pit, this guy says this and this guy says that, everyone's saying the same thing.
Right.
The Blazers want to make the best trade possible for their franchise, and Damian Lillard wants to get traded to Miami. They might end up being the same thing, and they might end up being the same thing because the Blazers didn't play their cards right. And Dame just got to the point where it was like, no, now we play my game. And this is what happens. Yep. This is what happens when, you make a plan and then you divert. The Blazers made a plan. They told the whole world the plan. The plan was give Damian Lillard an extension, big money, super flex, can't get paid more in the NBA contract. Tell him that they were going to build around him and therefore
committed and obligated to do so.
That's what he said. Yep. And so Damian Lillard signed the extension with the understanding that they were going to build around him. Then they tanked not once, they tanked twice. They drafted number 7 overall, Shaedon Sharpe. They got Jeremy Grant in a nice little trade. The CJ thing turned over to that. Then they take again and say at trade deadline, building around Dame. Then they get the lottery pick, building around Dame. Then they get the 3rd overall pick and still say, building around Dame. And Dame says, build around me. That's what I want. If you decide to draft 19-year-olds, I'm going to ask out.
Well, he said there's going to be a conversation.
A conversation.
Right.
We all know what it meant. We all knew what it meant. It wasn't going to be a conversation about not winning, right?
Right.
Like he said, basically he said it'll be up to me. At that point, I'm not going to be cool.
Right.
Then they drafted Scoot. The moment they drafted Scoot and said they're going to still build around Dame, no one should have believed that because it couldn't be true. In no world is drafting a 19-year-old point guard.
Not named Magic Johnson.
And then, who was 6'9" and had Kareem.
Right.
Who was 6'9", and played power forward / center in the finals.
Game 6, yes.
Game 6, whatever. You know what I'm saying. When you draft the 19-year-old 6'2" point guard or 6'3", I'll give him the shoes. At no point is drafting the 6'3", 19-year-old point guard and saying, hey, you know how we win a championship with Dame? We take the 19-year-old 6'3" point guard and we start him at the 2. That's a championship team. That's not true.
No.
And Dame knew it wasn't true. And Dame said, what are you doing? And they said, give me a week. Give me a week in free agency. He said, okay. They did nothing.
Nothing.
They did nothing.
Nothing
Other than re-sign the guy that was a guaranteed. Everyone's like, well, they re-signed Grant. That's what he wanted. That was a given.
Right.
That deal happened seconds after the free agency went down. They knew the number and the years. It was over. That was a done deal. The Blazers knew that they were re-signing Jeremy Grant without Damian Lillard because they knew what was going to happen. So I'm just saying, this is what they want. This is the Blazers. They laid this plan out. They knew this was going to happen. And now they seem to be, acting like, oh, now we got a new plan. It's not a new plan. But the Blazers do have to do what's best for them. I just think they shouldn't talk so much, the Blazers. It doesn't do them any good. It hasn't helped their situation.
No.
Players can talk because they're advocating for one. Teams should just do. And I'm interested to see what Joe Cronin can do, because at this point in time, Joe Cronin's resume, as I said in the last podcast, it does not look great. Trade CJ, sign Grant. Trade for Grant. I'll give you that. Tank, trade Dame.
Whew. A lot invested in Scoot and Sharp, right?
Right, but the Sharp pick you get, good. The Scoot pick, is nothing. Everyone would have drafted Scoot with 3 if you're going to draft. Like, you weren't. There's no
genius behind that, right? So
no, there's yeah. So that was a given.
So one of the more fascinating discussions around this has been, and I've had this so many times on different shows I've appeared on lately, is how much power does Damian really have in this situation? He's under contract, and there's a lot of people out there who believe that the Blazers can just trade him wherever they want to. And I keep saying they cannot. Now, people are taking me completely literally by believing that I'm saying he has a no trade clause or what have you, like Bradley Beal. And that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that they cannot simply trade him anywhere, because any team out there not named Miami that tries to trade for him is going to ultimately reach out to Dame and his representation. And according to multiple people that I've talked to, and this is out there from other people as well, his representation is going to say, Dame doesn't want to play for you. And so now that team has to say, well, so what? We're trading for you anyway. And to me, that would be just franchise suicide, because there's no returns. You make the trade, the Blazers run off with all these assets, and you have a pissed off Damian Lillard showing up, or maybe he doesn't show up. The guy's made $300 million. Maybe he says, you know what? This is a sign of disrespect. You just disrespected me by telling me that you don't care that I don't want to play for you. And you're going to make me come play for you against my wishes. Really? How's that going to work? And I'm just blown away by how many people are like, too bad, you shouldn't have signed the contract. No, that's not a thing. He signed the extension. Someone puts $112 million in front of your face, you're going to sign it. And he didn't sign it by saying, I'm going to give Cronin 3, 4, 5 years to figure this out. He signed it under the understanding that Cronin, who said his plan ran through right now, he said his plan ran through summer 2023. And here we are. And like you said, he's made one move that helps Damian win, and that's Grant, and nothing else. Matisse, I guess. But Matisse was a bench player for the Sixers. That's just a bench guy. That's not helping you win. A team that was contending got rid of him. So he's not a guy you can say is going to help you contend. He's a good piece, right? He's, finishing touch to a good roster, but yeah, he doesn't count. So if you don't do what you say you're going to do, and Damian Lillard has been this loyal, then the right thing to do is to send him where he wants to go. Now, that said, this doesn't mean that Miami can just get away with offering, reports are 2 first-round picks, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. The Blazers don't want Tyler Hero, I'm told, and everyone else, other people have reported this as well. But that he can be flipped to a third team for a pick, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, bottom line is, Dame is going to Miami, one way or the other. But everyone has to play nice. You don't, even like when Kevin Durant said, I want to go to Phoenix, and Brooklyn got a haul for him. So I'm not saying, they got a haul. And I'm not saying Portland should get that level, because Dame's not Durant. Some people say, well, what about what Utah got for Donovan Mitchell? Well, Donovan Mitchell was 25. Dame's age factors into this. He's a 33-year-old guard, owed $16 million over 4 years. That plays into the value. But at the end of the day, he's probably worth 4 firsts and a good young player. I'm told by sources that if everyone plays nicely and they figure this out and bring in another team, that there's an obvious path to where the Blazers get that. It's just a matter of everyone coming together. And the bottom line here also is that there's no rush. Summer League starts this week. Corona's going to be in Vegas. Other GMs are going to be in Vegas. Talks can be had. People, hey, you got an interest in Tyler Hero? Yeah, we like Hero. What are you thinking? I mean, you can throw a first round pick in this. You can take Hero. Now we got 3 firsts. Miami can unlock a first from that they owe OKC. Sort of like the similar situation the Blazers have with the Bulls. Like convey a pick to OKC now to freeze up other picks. So boom, now you got 4 picks, and then you try and figure out some young players. Boom, you're done. So I do think it's going to get there. But as of right now, if any other team tries to trade for him, this blows up.
So when people say he doesn't have a no trade, I don't even know, like, what league are they covering?
Exactly. What have you been paying attention to?
I mean, where has a star player been traded to a team he didn't want to play to? I mean, like, Donovan Mitchell's the closest thing because he wanted to go to New York, but he went to Cleveland, but he was okay with going to Cleveland.
Right.
You know, like, and he was 25, right? It's not his last. You know, he knows that if it doesn't work in Cleveland, it might not. Like, they're already talking that he might get traded again, right. You know, possibly. I'm just saying he's 25.
Right. Well, he's 26 now. At the time, he was 25, right?
But I'm just saying, like, he was 25. He's like, he's got 7 more years to get to Damian Lillard 33. This is it for Dame. He knows.
Right.
Like, I got one move. I am playing. You know what he's doing, Joe Cronin? Chips all in. He has put all his chips in. He's not playing games. He's like, this is it. He told his agent, I want to go to Miami. I got one shot. I'm going to Miami, and I don't care. And the Blazers are saying, well, we're not going to do that now. Okay, like, the Blazers have struggled to make trades.
Yeah.
You know how we know? Because Damian Lillard asked for a trade because you didn't make any. So that you know, affected the team to be a contender. So that's the thing. Can Joe Cronin make it? Can he do it? Can he make this happen without ruining a beautiful relationship, which is Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers community? It's a little bit fractured. It can be fixed. The moment they make a trade and they go up there and they say, we wish him the best. We thank Damian through this difficult time. This trade thing is awful. We didn't want to have to say goodbye. We understand why. We are so happy about this young team and what we just got. It can be fixed. It cannot be fixed if they say, well, you know, we wanted to trade him to Boston, but Dame said no, and just keep fracturing it. But no team is going to. I'm sorry, people out there in the national media that think, oh, it's a no trade. This is a ploy. What a terrible, stupid ploy. Why is it a stupid ploy? It always works.
Right.
Ask Kevin Durant. Ask James Harden again in a week when he does it again. I mean, like, Kyrie Irving, possibly the most difficult player in the NBA, has gotten his wishes. The only thing he hasn't gotten is to get to go to the Lakers. But, I mean, and by the way, the one trade that I could think of, Simmons, that didn't go. And how did that go for the team that traded for him? You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
But even Simmons wanted out, and in Philadelphia wouldn't trade him. And so Simmons all of a sudden a back and mental issues and just didn't do anything and made $40 million.
Yes.
So he
claimed that.
Right. He showed up and didn't do anything.
What team is going to hear from Damian Lillard himself through his agent that, hey, if you trade for me, I am going to be very unhappy and I don't want to play for your team and I'm going to tell the world. And so then let's just make up the team. Let's say it is Boston, who he has not said he wants to play for. You think Boston, who's on the cusp of a championship, is going to go, hey, Blazers, I know Dame said he doesn't want to play for us, but we want to give you Brown, 2 firsts, and this, and we're going to trade for him. And with the risk that he doesn't show up, he doesn't have to sit out the whole team, the whole year, people. They're not going to play the whole year without 2 starters. They're not going to do that. Their risk of trading all these assets for a guy who doesn't want to play for them. Why would they do
lunacy.
that?
Now Woj has put out that, so he's put out that Aaron Goodwin has told teams basically don't trade for Dame. I wrote a lengthy article today where I talk about that as well, based on conversations with several NBA sources saying that if a team comes to the Lillard camp and says, we want to trade for you, they're going to say, don't.
No.
And if he were to show up, he'd play hard. But I'm told it's not going to get to that point because he's not going to show up. And then I'm also told it's not going to get to that point because no one's going to do the deal, like you just said.
That's the point.
That's the point.
All that matters.
And that's what I keep.
That's what matters.
But Woj reported that rival GMs are saying that what Goodwin's saying isn't going to prevent some teams from maybe making a deal. I think that's BS. I just don't buy it. It would be unprecedented. I've been trying to think of a situation in NBA history where a player of this magnitude was forced to go somewhere they absolutely want to. Not did they go to their third choice or their second choice or fourth choice even, where they said, no, I don't want to play for you. And the team said, so too bad. We're going to trade for you. Now, for everyone who says, well, he's under contract, he needs blah, blah. Well, the GM who makes this idiotic trade has a contract too. And the contract is for him to not blow up the franchise. And this would be blowing up the franchise. And that GM would end up getting fired because Damian Lillard would come there if he came there, and you wouldn't get $50 million worth out of Damian Lillard, and you would have given all his assets away. And your whole intention of trading for him would be to contend, I imagine. A mediocre team's not going to trade for him. So you would just be firing yourself if you made this trade.
And what owner wants to do that? It's not like it doesn't get to the owner.
Right.
The Damian Lillard trade doesn't get, I didn't call the owner.
Yeah, we didn't let him know. Hey, by the way, I want you to meet someone. It's Damian Lillard.
I mean, and what team owner wants to be rejected publicly by Damian Lillard?
That's another thing.
How's that good?
Yeah, how's that look? So
I mean, what are people thinking?
I don't know.
Like, I'm Cleveland, and I just tried to trade for Damian, and he said, hell no, I'm not playing for Cleveland. Like, what owner wants that out there? That we had to beg him to play for us for $50 million.
Exactly.
Like, it's not a thing. And if it is a thing, I'm wrong.
Well,
and I'll wait for that day, and I will come and say
so
I was wrong. Some team thought that they should go trade for Damian Lillard when he doesn't want to play for him, and they're going to start training camp with the one. Well, I think he's going to come eventually. He'll come. Like this is all teams. Teams want this. By the way, it's not just Joe Cronin who wants Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams and others to put out there that teams are not afraid to make offers because they don't want players to have this much power.
Right.
This is what this is. This is an agent whose job it is to make sure his player has the most power possible. And this is GMs whose job it is to make sure that ownership has as much power as possible. It is a power play.
Right.
But the difference we have here is Damian Lillard got one shot. He is not worried about what's after this. He is not concerned about year 38 because he's 33.
Right.
And he's got this one huge, he doesn't have to worry about his contract. It's done. And people that say, well, he should just take a salary cut. It's over. You can't do it.
Stupid.
It's over. Those deals don't come back. It's not the NFL. Some people just don't get that. Aaron, don't get so mean.
No,
the NFL allows you, but the NFL does allow players to do that.
Well,
because their money's not guaranteed.
I know, but they take a cut in a given year, but they get all their money back in the future, right? So, but you can't really do that.
The NBA doesn't allow that,
right? And it's just not. It's ridiculous. I saw someone the other day say, if you were taking $25 million less, they'd have another player. Shut up. That's not how this works. No one's doing that. Stop with that.
No one's doing that. Yeah. And also, reminder, they offered him the extension, and he accepted. He was not a free agent. So, they could have let him become a free agent. He could have become a free. They told him that his best bet for a championship was to sign the extension and stay. Now, did they probably try to say, well, why don't you take a little less? Probably. That's what this is all about. But he was a super, flex player. They very much looking at where they were going with this franchise. It would have been a tough move for the fan base, but they could have waited and been in a different place with Damian Lillard. But they didn't. They offered him the extension and he signed it. So, and now his only the only way he can get to exactly where he wants to go right now or ever is by saying, I only want to go to Miami because he's got one shot, all chips in. He told his agent that. His agent said, okay, we'll play hardball and we'll see. And even the ones that are writing that the Blazers want to talk to other teams, they all hedge it by saying, but odds are he'll end up in Miami. Because history says, odds are Kevin Durant wants to go to Phoenix, he's going to Phoenix.
Right.
Odds are James Harden wants to go to the Sixers, he's going to the Sixers. Like, we just have this thing happens that way because the league, the NBA, because you have so few players on the NFL, you got 22 guys that start every day, and you got 50 guys that play on every team. In the NBA, you need 3 stars to win a championship and 4 other really good players. But it's a 12-man roster, man. They have a lot of power. Yeah. That's the way it is.
Definitely. Now let's look at this from the Blazers' perspective. So obviously they want to get as much as they can, and that's fine. I'm a little alarmed by some fans who would sell out Damian's chance to win a title elsewhere for an extra pick. Like that drives me nuts. Like, for me, if you're a Blazers fan, you should want to see Lillard win somewhere because he's been so loyal. He could have left a long time ago. I just feel like some people are demonstrating why players of his caliber should not remain loyal, because at the end of the day, what does it get you if a team's willing to just send you wherever? And not even like if they were to send him to a mediocre team, that would just be, to me, unseemly. But from their perspective, what I'm told is, look, Miami's initial offer is just not a thing. It's just not a thing they're going to do. 2 firsts, Hero, Duncan Robinson. They do not want Hero. He doesn't fit what they want. He makes too much money. They already have a 2-guard in Shaedon Sharpe. So they're not interested in that. They want something along the lines of the Gobert trade, the Donovan Mitchell trade, the KD trade. 1, Dame isn't KD. 2, Donovan Mitchell was 25 at the time of that deal. And 3, Gobert was younger, and the Gobert trade was ridiculous. And just because one team's ridiculous, doesn't mean other people need to be as bad. But I think 4 firsts and a good young player or 2 that they can use should get it done. And so they're not that far away. So sources told me that there's a pathway. Like there's a pathway to this. Both sides just have to come together and play nice. A lot of people were saying, well, this means the Blazers have to accept. No, the Blazers don't have to accept getting fleeced by Pat Riley. And it's on Damian and his representation to make Miami play ball if Miami really wants him. And so that's why I think this is going to work itself out at some point. That said, if you're the Blazers, like you said, you don't want to alienate this guy for a lot of different reasons. Could he salt you forever? Could he have influence on younger players on your roster right now who may watch how you treat him? But at the same time, you need to get what you need to get. So let's say Miami, though, won't play ball. Let's say Miami's like, look, this is all we're giving up. To me, that's telling Dame we don't really want you because the Blazers aren't going to budge, and they shouldn't. They should not get fleeced. They shouldn't get Durant level trade because he's not Durant, but they shouldn't get completely fleeced. If that were to happen and another team is offering a contender, is offering a legit package that Portland wants, and that team is Philly or Boston, I personally believe, okay, I've been told he wants Miami. That's it. He doesn't want to play in Boston. He doesn't want to play in Philadelphia. But my poison pill here is that if Miami won't improve the deal, then like I said, they're telling Dame, we don't want you enough to spend more on you. And Boston steps up. Then I see a scenario where Dame would be like, okay, now Miami's disrespecting me because they're not willing to play ball to get me. Okay, what's Boston doing? Because if he goes to Boston and plays with, like, the trade scenarios out there right now involve Boston keeping Jaylen Brown. Now, I don't know how they're going to pay Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Tatum, and Dame. I mean, that's going to be some miracle accounting there. But that's a situation where there's no way they don't repeat. Like, they won 2 championships in a row, I think. So then maybe Dame can come off the Miami thing in that scenario. But as of right now, it's Miami or bust, but Miami needs to play ball.
Yeah, and remember, you can't, if you're negotiating, you can't let a crack of doubt be out there that you might fold.
Right.
You got to say he's playing it as hard as he can. Does it mean when you negotiate that you don't end up coming off that number a little bit? Does it mean he says no to the Sixers if he likes it enough, or even the Clippers? Right now, yes. But of course, if Miami's deal is so bad, and again, these are smart people talking about basketball, that they're going to say, even his agent will say, and Dame is really smart and understands basketball, he's not going to sit there and go, oh, yeah, you should do a trade that's awful for you. And I get why you wouldn't and keep pushing that. Or maybe he will. And maybe he will. I mean, Miami wants him to. I mean, they want him not to come off this at all because they would like to fleece the Blazers, right? I mean, that's where we're at. So I think that's where things can get nasty is if we don't get to a place where the negotiation is an actual negotiation. If Miami wants to play hardball and say, hey, man, we know you're hoes. No one else is going to give you an offer. Nope, because the Goodwin thing is working. The agent thing is working. No one's asking. We got it. We won. No other team. But, the Blazers aren't going to do that. And other teams will play a little ball because the owners don't want the players to have this much power. That's why there's a possibility for all this to work. But when people say they're not worried about how they don't sign any other free agents anyway, so they don't care if they hose Dame. That's just small-minded thinking because it's not just about the players. It's about your future as a franchise. Do you want another Clyde Drexler situation or another Bill Walton situation where the players that meant the most to your franchise don't connect?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you want that? How is that good for your fan base, for the next owner, and you want to sell it? Do you really want Damian Lillard to connect to the Miami Heat when he wins a championship and have no affiliation with the Trailblazers? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Blazers, we all turned in forever. When you're in the media, you turn on Drexel Drive. They tried to fix it, but they couldn't. Clyde Drexler works for the Rockets. He did broadcasting for the Rockets. He doesn't come back to Portland as a hero. I covered the team for almost 15 years, and there were no Clyde Drexler celebrations. Did I miss one?
Well, no. Actually, they retired his jersey, and you weren't here, so yeah, it was right. 2001, the year right before they imploded.
I got here in 2007.
Yeah.
What kind of thing is that?
It's bizarre.
John Starks is a god in New York, and he lost the championship. There are places you don't want to do that. So it's not just worried about Sharp in 4 years or 5 years. And people will say, well, it's not a thing because, these rookies aren't free agents for 8 years. Well, they're really good players that can ask out. They have the ability to say, I don't want to play here. And this is what we're experiencing. So in the long run, it is bad to fracture the Damian Lillard relationship. And the Blazers do care about that. And if you don't think they do, then you should be really scared about how your franchise is being run, which, of course, I have to mention every single podcast. You should be worried about who's running your franchise because it's owned by a trust from a woman who runs it, who doesn't care about basketball. So you should care, but they don't want to ruin that. They want to do what's best for the franchise, which is what they should have said all along. They should have never promised that they were going to do right by Dame by putting all their chips in and then drafting his replacement, because now they're in this spot,
right.
Which is now they should have maybe done it. They shouldn't have just said it. They should talk less and do more.
Absolutely. And Damian has said that, when he's retired, he plans to be around.
He wants to come back.
He's going to hang out. He even joked about, I'll be hanging out in here, eating up all the food in the media room, right? Hanging out with you guys and just being around because he just, he wants to be Mr. Blazer. And on one hand, you could say, well, him leaving could hurt that. I don't believe so. The Blazers failed him. And no offense to Joe Cronin, but it's not like Joe Cronin has some track record of success being a GM. He's a newbie GM who was hired because another guy got fired. Right, he's made the interim, and then they gave him the job without even interviewing anybody. And Damian put his trust in this guy. Because Damian knew him. The guy's Cronin's been around.
Joe Cronin has nice guy points. He has nice guy points,
right?
And he's got smart guy points.
Exactly, but
he has no GM points.
Right, he had
tank trade Dame.
Right,
tank trade Dame.
Exactly. So his reputation as a GM is going to completely rest on what Sharp and Scoot develop into, and also what he gets out of this deal. But he has to be delicate about that because alienating and pissing off Lillard is not worth an extra pick. To me, it's just not. Make a good deal, but get Dame where he wants to go. and do it the right way and let him go win a championship and then try and bring him back. Like I say, I think that would be a great way for him to end his career. He comes back at $15 million a year at 37, and he's in the guard rotation with Scoot or whatever, and Sharp or wherever else they have, and he ends it that way, just like Pippen when he went back to the Bulls. To me, that would be the perfect storybook ending, but don't ruin it now, because at the end of the day, and 20 years from now, who are Blazers fans going to remember? Damian Lillard or Joe Cronin?
Oh, I mean, of course.
And it does, unless Cronin produces 2 or 3 titles, right? It's going to be Damian Lillard, and this is just, and so this is why I just don't understand.
Look, we all know Jerry Krause, but I think Michael Jordan.
Right, and Jerry Krause is only known because they won 6 titles.
I'm just saying, like,
I know what
GMs are
right. I know what you're saying,
it's
but
always Damian
right.
Lillard.
If Cronin wins a bunch of titles, he'll have a reputation, but like Riley does. Anyway, so we'll see how that works out. Let me ask you this though. So I've been told, like I said, that he could very easily not go, or if he shows up, he's going to be unhappy. But if nothing happens, if what we're saying is true, that no team's even going to bother making a trade, and Miami doesn't step up, what's left? Damian has to come back. I'm just saying that. Well, that's the end result. Damian never gets traded, and then training camp rolls around. I don't think it's going to get to this. Like I said, I think they're going to work things out with Miami, but that would literally be the next step. Like that's where you would be headed if those other things didn't play out the way everyone wants them to play out. So then Lillard would be in Portland and very, very pissed off and very, very disrespected. Ugh. And that, oh my God, like you'd almost have to just tell Damian to stay away and you're going to pay him. Because you can't have him that upset and walking around Scoot and Shaden and just being completely sour. So this is one of the reasons why I said something has to give way, because that is the end result if nothing this summer happens to move him.
Yeah, I just there's no scenario in my mind that can see that. I mean, that's a failure at every level. That's a failure at every level. That's a failure for the Blazers front office. That's a failure for the Lillard's agent, who, by the way, this is a big deal to a good one too. I mean, this is something he's got to do, because if he makes this happen for Dame, that helps you sign new clients. He can't fail. He can't have Damian Lillard stuck with the Blazers come training camp. That'd just be. But there's no way Dame comes back. The team would have to. But then you're already in a cordial place. If you're saying the Blazers would say, well, we'll just pay you to not come, then you're somehow having a cordial conversation. And I don't see how anything is cordial if David Lillard is told that you're still a Blazer in training camp. I just don't. I mean, look, crazy things have happened in the world of sports and in the world, right, where people end up being back and accepted, and A-Rod came back to the Yankees, and is in good graces, like, after his suspension. So I'm not saying, I never say never. Like, maybe there's a way that they make 3 trades and around it, and Dame's like, okay, I want to stay. I mean,
well, okay,
I don't see
if they were to magically pull off some deals, Dame would probably stay. He doesn't want to leave. Like, I've been told numerous times, this has been very agonizing for him. He does not want to do this, but he feels like he has no choice. He feels like he has no choice. Like, there were deals out there they could have made that would have helped the team be better and give him a chance to at least make some noise in the playoffs. And the Blazers, led by Cronin, decided that they just weren't worth the transcendent generational talent that Scoot is, and the amazing player that Sharp's going to be in 4 or 5 years. And so
the team decided that they would rather keep Scoot. They'd rather have Scoot and Shaden Sharp for the future than Damian Lillard.
100%.
They could say whatever they want
100%.
about outside, because they don't want to put it on Dame, which is kind of crappy. But I get what they're doing. They need to sell tickets. And we don't know who Joe Cronin's talking for, because we don't know who's in charge of this team. Is it Bert Gold? Is it Jody that wants this? We don't know. He's got bosses. But anybody who is not seeing this as the Blazers decided they making Sharp untouchable and drafting Scoot, making him untouchable, they decided they would rather have those two players than having Damian Lillard. And the reason why I can say that is because that's what Damian Lillard feels.
Well, yeah.
And Damian Lillard feels it. And that's all that matters. All this time, it does not matter if that's what, maybe Joe Cronin somehow honestly believes that no, we really think we could build around Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and Damian Lillard and win a championship in the next 2 years. He might believe that. But what Joe Cronin knew is that Damian Lillard didn't believe that. The moment they drafted Scoot, Dame said, I'm out. And they said, well, give us a week. And he said, okay. And they didn't do anything. They made this bet.
Right.
They made this bet.
And to be fair to Joe, though, and we've talked about this before, if someone, look, let's say Toronto says we'll give, okay, I've actually heard this was an offer. Toronto offers Siakam for number 3, Ant, Shaedon Sharpe, and Nurkic, or a future first. Or maybe in the 23rd pick and some salary filler. That's way too much. I would say no if I were Joe. I'm not doing that. Even if Zion for the same package, I'm not doing that. Zion, do I know Zion's going to play 50 games a year? I don't know that. I'm not giving you all of that. I'll do number 3, maybe Ant and Nurkic, but I'm not giving you Sharpe as well because I'm projecting Sharpe out as a future All-Star. So, yeah, even if part of the decision that we just said we agree that Joe made is because the offers weren't worthy of Sharpe or the pick, which is what he pretty much said on draft night, then that's 100% fine. I have no qualms with him making that decision if it was just like, you know what, it's just not worth it. I don't think the guys we're going to win if we give up all these other assets. We want Dame to stay, and maybe we can make a trade at the trade deadline. Maybe we can make a trade next summer. Who knows? But right now, this just isn't worth it. Joe Cronin, good for you. You made the decision that you feel was necessary to be made. But you did so, and you had to have done so knowing that this was coming because everyone else knew this was coming. I sat there at that post-draft press conference, dead center, looking right at him when he was trying to explain how they were going to play Ant, Scoot, Dame, and Sharpe in 5 minutes for all those 4. And how Ant...
you said Ant, yeah.
Yeah, Ant too, even though Ant should be traded, but regardless. And then how Dame and Scoot can play together. Even though we also saw that Dame and CJ didn't work. I mean, it worked. They won. They were a playoff team, but it didn't contend. Ant and Dame was never really going to work. But now we're going to get younger. Like you're going to go from a veteran stud like CJ all the way down to a guy young enough to biologically be his son. And that's going to be the combination. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Of course it is.
It's just lunacy. Exactly. He knew at that moment. And he also knew because of his conversations with Dame that this wasn't going to go over well. And sure enough, they had a meeting. And it's been reported, and I've heard as well, that they were going to ask out then. But Joe said, no, give me a little bit more time. We got free agency coming up. And then nothing in free agency. So I give him a pass for making his decision, but part of that decision means trading Dame, and you need to do right by Dame because you didn't do right by Dame in terms of building around him like you said you would.
That's the key. Like you said you would. I think in the long run, I told you, I think this is the best thing for the franchise. I didn't see the Blazers finding any way to get Damian Lillard a championship because I think they're too many pieces away. Because I think Dame does need needs an all-star level big. I think it's important. And I didn't see them getting it. Because once the Heat went to the finals, I'm like, well, you're not getting Bam because that was the guy. I was like, if you get Bam, which I thought was a chance with the 3rd pick if they blew it up.
They flamed out, right?
Because the Heat could have blown up. They were in the play-in. I think the Heat going to the finals sucks for the Blazers and Joe Cronin.
I think they could have gotten Butler. I think they could have gotten Butler, not Bam. But go ahead.
Okay, but I would have to me, even Butler makes it hard. Yeah. Because I think you need a.
Well, no, if they get Butler, dude, come on.
We can argue that.
Okay.
It didn't happen. I'm just saying. To me, the fastest path is a big,
right?
A big that could do multiple things because that's what's. I mean, Giannis won a championship. Jokic won a championship. I mean, like it's the thing. Unless you are the Warriors, right? And then you have you have so much talent, including Kevin Durant at one point and Steph Curry and whatever. But to me, Damian Lillard is a great guard. They had other guard pieces. But what I'm saying is either Joe Cronin did what he thought was best for the franchise, and I have no problem with any of the moves he's made so far. I have a little question about the Grant contract, but whatever. I'm not that mad about it. All I'm saying is you're saying you did all that with this other plan in mind, which is keeping Damian Lillard. But if you actually thought that was going to happen, that's incompetence. Because no one thought that was going to happen. No one could look at this team and say, yes, do all this and Damian Lillard, right, including the guy it was Damian Lillard, like the guy, the actual dude who said, hey, dude, but listen, I'm not going to play with that.
But listen, I was texting some sources with the Blazers and when the Scoot thing went down, and I was like, dude, he's going to ask out. And people are like, why do you think that? Like, wow. He doesn't want to play. Like, you guys drafted his replacement. Yeah, but maybe he'll change his mind and accept Scoot. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess maybe, but no. And if he does, I think if we said it here, if he does, I never want to hear from him again about how he wants to win and maybe be traded someday, because if you're accepting this, you're not serious about winning. There's no way you can accept this. So I believe there definitely was a mindset within the Blazers organization that they could do all this and Dame was going to stay. But I also part of me believes that they knew that if they did this, it was not going to go well, but they wanted Dame to pull the trigger, not them. Because now Dame's the bad guy.
That's definitely.
Yeah. Because Cronin's reaction, Cronin's reaction was, we're committed to winning, but Dame is asked out. So now we're going to do what's best for there wasn't like any signs of disappointment, or it doesn't sound like there was any, oh no, please Dame, don't do this. Here's our plan. It was just like, oh, okay, you want out? Let's put out the statement. Because the statement made it clear that Dame asked out. So now it's on Dame. It's not on Joe. It's on Dame. Well, but no, we're only at this point because of the decisions Joe made. For better or for worse, you still made those decisions. Now, last segment real quick before we cut off here. So you mentioned Grant. So we all know now, new CBA, you have to meet a salary floor, similar to the NFL's salary floor. So that's, you sign someone like Grant. People question whether Dame hung on just long enough to make sure Grant got his deal. I mean, I don't know if I buy that conspiracy theory. And if Joe Cronin got played like that, then that's a red flag because we all knew what this was going to happen if you don't sign another guy. But I'm told that they do not want to tank next year. They want to win. I know you think that's crazy talk, but they're also reportedly going to match Matisse Thybulle's offer from Dallas. He's a veteran guard who gives you someone who can play defense and an adult at the guard position, which is all filled with kids right now. And it's like the senior and Thibault, the senior guard members now. So you have Grant, so you have a starting power forward. We'll see what happens with Nurk. It almost seems 100% that Nurk's going to be gone. You're going to get a different center. They've made this offer to this Eddie Tavares guy in Europe, who's a big lumbering rim protector. I don't think he's a starter. They're going to have to find a starter. They still are going to have the mid-level exception. They still could pull off other deals. So we talked about this last week, but do you see a path to at least the play-in for this team if they can get someone decent with the mid-level and get back a good player in this Lillard trade?
I mean, yeah, I guess there's a path to the play-in. It's not hard to get the play-in. You got to be a bad team to get in the play-in. You don't have to be a really good team. So, sure. How that helps you, I don't know. I mean, everyone says, I don't really understand the Blazers philosophy and sometimes people thinking. Everyone says the Blazers are never going to get great players through free agency. You're only going to get them through trades in the draft. Well, the only way to get great players through trades is have a great player or through the draft.
Right.
So I mean, how does mediocrity help you? It doesn't. How I know? Because I lived here since 2007, and I saw the whole thing. I mean, I got here when Odin was number one pick and they had, they were trying to do it the way, and Pritchard was, I don't like using the term that about the Pritch slapping, but he was stealing every deal, and they were raiding Spain to find all-stars, and it didn't work, because they got bad luck in the draft because Greg Oden's legs collapsed and Brandon Roy's knees collapsed. I mean, the truth of the matter is Brandon Roy had a 5-year amazing career, and it was over.
Right.
And so while he was rookie of the year and he was the right pick and he was perfect for the Blazers because he's such a great dude and they were coming off the jail Blazers and it was something awesome to root for. Unfortunately, he isn't Damian Lillard, who's a decade and still playing, right? I mean, he was done by 30. So the only way to me for the Blazers, I'm going to buy it. I'm buying in, even though I have argued against it. I will give it that you're not going to sign a big name free agent if you're in Portland.
Ever.
So then what are you saying to me? That you're guaranteeing that Scoot's an all NBA player and Sharp's an all NBA player and that Grant is that role player at 30, let's give it the best case scenario. Kobe won in year 4 with Shaq. But let's say this is a miracle of all miracles in 3 years and Grant's still in his prime at 32. You think that's going to happen? I just think as George Clooney once said in a great movie, you think we're going to need one more?
And Grant's going to be tough to move.
Yeah, that's a huge
He's going to have 4
contract.
years, 120 something million after this first year.
And
he's good, but
he's an overpay. You know how I feel about him. We argued here. I said, look, he's 20 and 5. He's 22 and 5. He doesn't rebound. He's a good defender, not a great defender. He's a really, really good basketball player. Right. He is the CJ McCollum of forwards. Yeah. He's good, but he doesn't do other things.
Right. So
I hope they don't. I really hope that they don't make. For your sake, I hope they make the play-in because you got to cover this team every game. But if you want to win a championship in the next, 5 or 6, 5 years, I don't see how, getting pick 18 is going to help.
But you're not going to get pick 18 because you're going to go to Chicago next year, right? If you make the playoffs, which is part of the problem here. So they pretty much are going to have to follow the model that OKC has done. Right? They're done Paul George. They got a bunch of assets, and now they already have a really good young team and a bunch of picks coming. I mean, if Chet Holmgren is legit with Giddey and Gilgeous Alexander, oh my God, and other guys like Dortz and other guys they have coming, they're going to be stacked and stacked completely with drafted guys. And they're going to have picks to go out and make trades. Probably no big free agent necessarily is going to want to go there, but they can get mid-tier guys to fill in spots. They're going to be really good. So the Blazers, and that's one of the reasons why they want a haul here from Dame, is that if they hit, Ant's going to be good already. They hit on Scoot, they hit on Sharp. Now you got 3 young studs going forward, Chris Murray, and then you go out and get some picks, and you get a lottery pick next year, which is why I don't think they should try and make the playoffs. You add a big, hopefully. Now you're moving. Now you're rolling.
You gotta get
right?
a big.
You gotta get a big.
Draft a guard.
But that's the way. In 6 years, if Shaedon Sharp had been drafted by Indiana, and in 6 years was a star, he's not coming to Portland as a free agent. No way in hell. But you got him through the draft, right? Same thing with Damian Lillard. Had Damian Lillard been drafted by someone else and became a star, and if Blazers had Damian Lillard wouldn't come to Portland, he'd go anywhere but Portland. So, but you got him in the draft. So that's why, to me, making the playoffs next year would just be ridiculous. Because not only are you making the playoffs, you're losing a pick. You're losing a lottery pick. You're trading a lottery pick for the chance to just make the playoffs and get rolled. So we'll see how that works out. But apparently that is the stated goal, to try and be decent next year.
Well, I understand it. If you're Joe Cronin, you don't want to have one of the worst, GM records
and if you're Chauncey Billups.
In the world. And if you're Chauncey Billups, you don't want to have the worst coaching record in NBA history when a new owner comes in next year and cleans house.
Right. Well,
that's a possibility.
Yeah. No matter how they lose next year, I can almost guarantee that Chauncey is going to be the fall guy.
Well, why does Chauncey want to coach his team anyway, really? I know he wants to be a coach in the NBA, but this isn't what he signed up for.
No, it isn't.
We haven't talked about Chauncey at all, and people want to blame Chauncey, fire Chauncey. I'm like, fire Chauncey
and hire him.
What? But what? Why? What is he?
Because a coach is supposed to be able to get the most out of Watford and Little and Keon Johnson and Greg Brown and win. Literally, people say that. It's ridiculous.
Chauncey was tasked to tank 2 years in a row, and he did. So he did what he was asked to do by his bosses,
right?
Which was lose games. Now, sometimes they made it impossible for him to win because the summer league team's going to look a whole lot like the team that played the last 5 games of the year. I'm just saying, like, I have no idea if Chauncey Billups is a good coach.
Right.
You know who else doesn't know? Chauncey Billups.
Yeah.
He can't.
Right.
He can't know. So I do feel bad for Chauncey Billups because Chauncey Billups had other
aspirations.
He had other choices.
Yeah.
Well, and other choices. Yeah. Could have been a GM. He could have been a coach other place. I mean, Chauncey Billups is so highly regarded. He walked into a situation where his past came back and, rocked him where, when he was 19, and I don't know what happened there and whatever, but like that guy was like, whoa. And then he thought he was going to coach Damian Lillard, Jeremy Grant, and, and some chances to win, to build around exactly what he thought, what Dame thought. And that is not what he's gotten.
Exactly.
And now he's about to end. And now he's in this place where he is a player's coach, and he and Dame got along, and he's with ownership now.
Right.
He got to stay out and be like, I love you, Dame, but I work for them.
True. But at the same time, he also didn't want to coach kids either. He said himself, he said at the press conference, we need to get longer. We need to get older. We need more veterans. He said, we've already made small moves around the edges. We need to make big moves. Right. So they haven't done right by him as a coach either. But at the end of the day, when they do go young and they do struggle, he'll be the fall guy, in part because the Blazers are going to question, well, is Chauncey the right coach for a bunch of young players? And quite frankly, he probably isn't, because he didn't sign up to coach a bunch of young players. He thought he was coaching Dame and CJ and maybe trade CJ for another guy. That's what he thought he was signing up for, not, a nursery school. Here's what's funny, dude. I'm going to be at Summer League, and even next season, I'm going to be covering a roster, or even this past year with Shaden and Jabari, that has players on it younger than the dudes I covered at Oregon. That's what blows my mind. Yep. Like, I can think back to young Dennis Dixon and LaMike and Stewart and Mariota. It's like I'm coaching kids their age now in the NBA, and they're expected to win. It ain't going to happen. Not for a long time. All right. Anything else?
No, but you're off to Summer League.
I'm off to Summer League.
You're going to Summer League.
I'm going to Summer League. Scoot. We'll see Scoot and Shaden play together for the first time. We're not sure how much they're going to play. I'm hoping they play 3 games, because that's as long as I'm going to be there for. And then we'll see if any news breaks on the Damian Lillard front. And if, hey, you know what? During all this is going on, how come they can't sign someone else? How come they can't make other roster moves if they're trying to win? Can you do something, that does all have to be on hold until Dame makes a decision? I don't know. It's just crazy. But okay. So we'll probably do another podcast from Summer League, hopefully. Thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus podcast. I'm Aaron Fentress. He's Craig Birnbach. Please give us a positive rating and click the subscription button. And we'll be back again with more melodrama from the Blazers franchise. Take it easy.